Es ist zwar jetzt offiziell Feierabend, aber in Amerika ist es jetzt gerade 12 Uhr, das heißt dahin, wohin ich eigentlich gerade telefonieren möchte. Ich habe heute einen Videochat mit Rick Weeks. Ich weiß nicht, ob ihr ihn kennt. Ähm, er hat einen eigenen YouTube-Kanal und ist über 70 Jahre und über 100 Kilo, aber macht mächtig, mächtig immer was los. Und jetzt wollen wir einfach mal schauen, ähm, dass wir mit Rick Weeks ein schönes Interview auf die Reihe kriegen. Ich bin noch dabei, hier meine Geräte fertig zu machen.
All right.
Okay. Hi Rick, nice to see you. I have to put my glasses away so I look a little more smarter. We have a little chat right in front of this interview. Für alle, die ihn nicht kennen, das sind in Deutschland auch nicht mehr so viele. Rick hat seinen eigenen Videokanal. Und bevor ich überhaupt das erste Mal auf dem Brett stand und gepaddelt habe, habe ich Ricks Video gekannt. Und deswegen bin ich auch nicht ein bisschen stolz, aber doch ein bisschen aufgeregt, jetzt mit ihm zu sprechen. Und zwar, wir wollen sprechen über Subsurfing und Zappen, wie es sich entwickeln kann. So right now I've introduced the guys that I know your videos long before I was the first time on a SUP board, and that I'm proud and that we could make this chat right now. So Rick, how long do you go supping right now?
Yes, I was born a little earlier in 48. I'm 72 years old now. I started surfing in 1964, and I organized my life around surfing. I did not organize surfing around my life. Surfing was what everything centered around, including when I had businesses, when I had families, when I had kids, and I had houses, everything else. Surfing always, when there was waves, I went surfing. When I was about 62, my rotator cuffs went, and I couldn't push up on the board anymore. So I looked at stand-ups, and I never had any interest in them, none, zero. I'd look at people, I go, why would you do that? Then one day I said, you know what, I can't get up on little waves anymore. So I went out and I bought a big stand-up, 11.2 by 36 inches wide, because I was pretty heavy at that time. And I went out in the waves just to use it in small waves. I never went back on a surfboard again. I couldn't believe how much paddle surfing added to my surfing experience. I was like, it was like the shortboard revolution all over again. It was excitement. It was just fun. I was so stoked. I wish I could have started this when I was 30 years old.
And right now, I see all the time you're using for German thinking very short boards. So the Kangar, the Creek, and those there. In Germany, the common size is 12.6 and 14, but you are using boards mainly shorter than 10 feet. Why are you doing this?
Well, when I first started paddling, it was mainly because I injured myself surfing with a big board, and I now had a small board, and one day I was sitting on the couch. I said, I'm losing conditioning again. I need to do something. So I stood up and I went, all right, I can do that. So I took my board out and I paddled out into a marsh and paddled out into the inlet. And all of a sudden I went, wow, a whole new sport. I couldn't afford race boards and long boards and short boards. I just had one board. And pretty soon after that, I was on an 810 surf sup. So that's what I paddled. And I would paddle 6 miles, which is 10K. And I would do it. I was never in a hurry. I didn't care about speed. I didn't care about my cadence. I cared about paddling through the marshes, looking at the nature. Paddling for me has always been just a slow, enjoyable, just a trip through nature. We have a ton of great places. Everywhere in the world has beautiful places to paddle. the short board was easy. I could throw it in my van inside. I had a little van. I'd just throw it inside. I'd take it out. I'd throw it in the water, and I'd paddle. And I'd paddle for hours. And it was, you know, all the people on the long boards, the race boards, were out in the middle with their headphones on, and they're going fast. They're timing themselves. They're concerned with getting better. I was concerned with being quiet, listening to everything out there, seeing everything I could see. I paddled the edges through the marshes, down these little tiny creeks. Hence my name on the forums is Sup the Creek.
I get, especially of the waves, you've got a nearly similar surrounding like we are living here. Many rivers and little lakes, big lakes, creeks, and so on. But we've talked about in front of it, you got some ideas. What be the ideal board for the most of the suppers or recreational suppers, sportive suppers, especially not for the racers? And the racers are a small group. In Germany, they have much less than 5% of all the suppers. They are 1%, I guess. So what would you design for a board, especially for a normal weight man and for a woman?
It could be the same board. At 10 foot long, over 32 inches or wider, 33 is fine. The fast crowd says wide boards are not good to paddle, and they're 100% wrong. I paddle my Kanga all the time. It's 9.6 by 33.5. It surfs great, and yet I can just go on one trip. I can take the Kanga, I can go surfing. I went down to Virginia Beach. I went surfing on it. I entered a contest in it. And then I went paddling with my friends afterwards. It's a great all-around. I use it for everything. It surfs amazingly well, and it paddles amazingly well. But for the average person, I would say getting into it, kind of an all-around shape, not a wide nose, not a super narrow nose, surf-styled shape, and a little bit of rocker so that it can go up over the waves. 150 liters would float pretty much anybody at 32, 33 inches wide. It's not always about volume. You put people on a 33-inch wide board, they don't need a ton of volume to be stable or to paddle well. And a 10-foot board would be fantastic, you know? And then they could just pick it up. The women that are too small to throw it up on the roof of their car, they can just open up the back door and shove it in, or open up the window, slide it in. Small boards they're easy to store, they're easy to carry, and they're fantastic for paddling.
Yeah, but on the other hand, I saw some very nice videos with you with the Surge, with the 14-foot Surge. So, what do you think about this? Isn't it? It has less volume. It's very big. It's long, but it has only 220 liters of volume. Do you think this could be a good compromise?
Oh yeah, the Surge is it's fantastic. It's a surf-shaped board with low rails, a very narrow nose, narrow tail. You can use it for many things: downwinding, touring. It has tie downs for touring. The Surge is an amazing board. I paddle it all winter long. I paddle through ice. I'll go through 3 inches of sea ice because it's soft. I can paddle through it. I paddle in blizzards. I take that board when number one, if I have a car. Like my van right now is too small for it, so I don't use it a lot. But when I'm taking my car, I have a Honda Civic. I just throw it up on the roof, and I'll take that and paddle. It's a beautiful board. If you have the room to store it, if you have the car that you can handle putting it on and off your car, the Surge is a totally amazing board. And oddly enough, it surfs pretty well. It's not an easy board to surf. You have to. It's a learned experience. Surfing the Surge, it requires specific skills, but it serves pretty cool when you do have them.
I fell in love with this board because I stand it up. It was really flat water, and it was fast. So every pedal stroke I do goes forward directly, and then I put it in a downwinder, and every small wave it was planning. It takes everything easy, and I for myself with a 14-foot board, I'm much lighter than you. I'm 85, 87 kilos, so it was wonderful. My wife has a 12-foot surge, but then you build up with Sonova this Surge Point Break Edition. What is this board made for? Heavier guys for a shorter board? What was the proposal there?
Started with a friend of mine who's 6'4", 240 pounds, 108 kilos. He wanted it to be a combination paddle and surfboard, but he didn't want it made to be a paddler. He wanted it made to be, we decided, he and I talked about it. He wanted 32 inches of width because he's a big guy. He wanted to paddle long distances to these, in Rhode Island where we surf in the winter when the waves get really good. It's crowded, so we paddle to these really remote points, and we have them all to ourselves. So we went to Bert Berger at Sonova and said, we want the absolute best 12-foot surfboard you can make. We said, we don't care about downwinding, we don't care about paddling, we don't care about anything. Just make the very best surfboard you can make. And he came, and we told him, this guy asked for 32 inches wide. And a lot of people on the forums were saying that's too wide for a surfboard. They're wrong. I've got the videos. I mean, I surf it all the time and everything. The 12 feet long and 32 inches wide gives it rail curve back in the hips, so it turns very easily. And the fact that it's 12 feet long and 32 inches wide, just by default, it paddles really well. So it's fantastic. That's the board that's in my van now every day. It never comes out until I'm either surfing or paddling it. So it paddles. That's my flatwater board right now, my go-to flatwater board, because it fits in the van.
I'm surprised sometimes with your videos. I see all the time you're doing is surfing, subsurfing. And then you have some videos where you have shots where you make flat water, very silent sundowners, you paddle through the creeks, but there's only shortcuts. What do you do the most, and what do you like most? Subsurfing, both, or this silent planning, supping in silent areas?
I like doing something. If there's no surf, I paddle. Surf gets first call. Surf is always first call. The other day I went paddling and I got home. I was unloading. I was taking up my gear, and a friend of mine called me, goes, the waves are really good. And I'm like, what? I missed. I actually went paddling instead of surfing. So, yeah, I don't always get it right. But one year I kept very accurate records just because I was curious how much time I spent paddling and surfing. It broke down to, I did 238 days on the water. And I live in New England where we have blizzards and ice and sub-zero temperatures for months at a time. We have howling winds in the winter, and yet I was on the water 5 out of 7 days every week year-round. When I could surf, I surfed. When I couldn't, I would find some place where the wind would work out, and I would make a good paddle plan, and I would paddle someplace and use the wind to my advantage or hide from it. And it turned out to be almost an exact split between paddling and surfing.
So, yeah, okay, we have the problems, we don't have such good waves. We have the Baltic Sea, that's not the Atlantic Ocean, so that's a difference. So
I lived in a place without good waves, and I moved.
I moved from the inside of the country, Germany, to the coast. So for windsurfing, not for surfing, but mainly for windsurfing. And right now I'm a paddler, only paddler, not windsurfing anymore. So if we try to make a look in the future, so the next 1, 2, 3 years, what do you think? I know you work with Bert Berger from Sanover and Martin, and what would you expect what it brings with the development of boards? Will it go more race boards, more longer boards, more narrow boards, or do you expect something different?
The race crowd won't like me right now, but everybody I know, when racing started, it was on the all-arounder, the big surf sups. That was, I mean, the sup was one thing. They were all like 10 or 11 feet, looked like a big surfboard. That's how sup started. The races started because humans are competitive, and they would go out on those boards and they would race. Some people wanted to go faster, so they eventually the race board came around, the 12.6, then the 14, then the unlimited. Most of the people I started racing with, you know, they don't paddle anymore. They go out recreational, but their racing became so fine-tuned, so competitive that it's a very small field, as you say. Right now with COVID has created an opportunity for people to find out the beauties of stand-up, because stand-up is paddling is a perfect socially distant exercise. You can be social with your friends. You can go paddling. When you're walking along with your friends, drinking your coffee on your route, you're real close together. Being socially distant is awkward. When you're paddling, you can be socially distant. You can be 10 feet apart. I mean, you always are. You know, you're paddling. You keep separate. You're out in the wind. There's zero chance of any COVID passing between people out there. You can't go to the gym anymore. So what better thing to do than to go out paddling? And I would like to see the emphasis leave the race board type boards. They're technical. They're a little bit hard to stand on. I would like to see a return back in the direction of the all-arounder with a full nose, 32 or 33 inches wide, between 9, 6, and 10 feet long. I don't really think you need to be any longer than that. Everybody talks about speed, but I taught paddling for years, and very few of the people that I taught cared anything about speed. They just wanted to go out, go on the water. They didn't care about their cadence or their vertical paddle stroke. They're rowing along, drinking their coffee, chit-chatting with each other and looking around. There's virtually almost nobody in the world that lives someplace without water near them. And if there's water near you, a river, a lake, a reservoir, an ocean, you throw a board in it. If it's not a big pond, you paddle around it. It's such a great sport right now to adopt. So you can go outside any time of the year. I paddle in the sub-zero temperatures. It's just a great, with COVID, and believe me, when COVID's over, it's not over. They now have us on the loop to where every new flu, every new virus that comes along, they're going to try to lock us down, socially distance us, mask us up. So buy a paddleboard, because it is your way to exercise in the future. It's truly, it's one of the only things I do. I'm high risk. So I surf, I paddle, I stay home. So paddling is my life now.
Sometimes in Germany it was like the regulation against COVID was pro-supping. Because you have the distance, you have to make your sport outside, and you have to do it alone or with a big distance. And I said, the guy who wrote this must be a stand-up paddler. So we have right now this here. So in my experience in Germany, and I guess the American market is stand-up paddling a little bit forward. We have many people in our age, so from the middle of the 40s up, our oldest student was, I think, 68 or 86 or something like that. He was very old. We said, come on, it would be dangerous. And after half an hour, he paddles away from us with a great speed, great technique. So, but there are coming some new kids inside. Is it the same in the US that the kids enter the sport, or is it more or less a mid-age, older age sport in the US?
Look at me. I'm an old man. The only reason that I gained a following with my YouTube videos was because the people in the SUP world were all my age. They all look like me. They're all older. They have bad shoulders, bad hips, bad knees, bad back. They're overweight. Paddling is just something that's so easy for people to do. I know all kinds of people that were injured doing something. They can't windsurf anymore. They can't kite anymore. They can't lay down and paddle their surfboard anymore. SUP is just a really gentle, easy thing, and anybody can learn it, like you said. In 15 minutes, I can have somebody paddling. I've got a video where I took 4 people out on surf SUPs for the first time ever. They'd never paddled. We went 4.5 miles to an island, across a big bay and down a river and against currents, and they did it in an hour and a half, and they had an amazing time. The very first, they got on the boards. I don't do a little circle around to teach them. I get them on the boards, and we start moving out someplace so that they can stop thinking about paddling and start looking around. And when they start looking around, they relax, their body relaxes, and their balance improves instantly. Mostly what I found with most people is I tell them if they're really, really struggling, I say, smile. And as soon as they smile, their body relaxes. And that's all it takes to be comfortable on a paddleboard, is just to relax. They're very easy, and you can teach anybody at any age.
And have you a growing, some people come from the youth that are in the 20s and the teenage age or something like that, or is it always middle age up?
No, the beautiful thing about stand-up right now is I have a lot of friends that their kids are starting to really, really, really like SUP surf. Paddling, forget it. You put any little kid on a paddleboard and you don't tell them paddle straight, paddle like this. You just let them dive off, jump, spin around. Kids love paddleboards. They go on it. You give a group of kids 4 paddleboards, they'll all end up on one. But as far as surfing goes, now the boards have progressed to the point to where young people that are really good surfers are starting to find out, hey, wait a minute, this is kind of fun. You know, there's a lot of the best surfers in the world that you ask them why they're surfing a stand-up, and they'll go, why wouldn't you? You know, a lot of the old legends are all loving stand-up now. And the boards are becoming so good that the real young rippers can now ride really good boards and surf. So I think it's going to start taking off a bit with the young kids in the waves as well.
Great. So the common reason for you, if you would say or talk to somebody and said, why should I start up with stand-up paddling? Could you say it in 5 sentences?
I wish I knew about this 30 years ago. I do. It adds so much to the experience of surfing. It's you can't understand it. It's like a surfer trying to explain to a non-surfer. The only way you know what they're talking about is to surf. Then you know. You can understand a paddleboard in the surf. Then you know. It adds a new dimension to surfing to me. And every day I'm like a kid in a candy store every day.
The same for me, yes. So great. Rick, it was very nice to chat with you. We make a stop right now here because the video gets too long otherwise. But if you like, we make an appointment to talk with the board about the point break, that you can explain the things when I stand in the by the board, and we make a video together about this board. And I guess we'll make this appointment so that we can make this video next week or in 2 weeks. So, but I guess the people will be very interested. It was very nice to chat with you. And I don't know, do you know this kind of beer?
I don't drink beer. I look like I drink beer, but I don't. I've never liked beer. But
it's our local brewery. It's called Flensburger, and I'd like to cheers to you and thank you very much for this video.
Cheers. And I have been to Germany, by the way. I've been to beer halls, and it's a beautiful place. So yes, I will see you very soon, and we'll talk about the point break. We could go on forever. There's so many good boards to talk about. So great talking with you, and I'll see you next time.
We will do so. See you. Bye.
Bye.
These feel more balanced in the water in terms of the front and the back.
Yeah.
So when you turn, you're turning around the center of the board.
Right.
Where with the longer boards, it feels like you're turning that whole board around.
Yeah, oh yeah. Race boards, they generally stand back. They do a buoy turn. You put your foot back and you do a sweep pivot turn. You know, you bring it all around.
Fantastic. We're getting these boards.
Oh yeah?
I mean,
Yeah.
this is just like, you could just do tricks on these things.
It's just so easy to turn, maneuver. You can go fast. It's just not a lot of effort to get to paddle into the wind. I can learn to surf on this. I can do this in the bay. I can do adventures.
And these guys have race boards right at their house on the water. So what I've said all along, surf sups are fun to paddle flat water.
Great.